5D Mark IV is old. Now that means two things. First, the price is approaching that magical number, $1,000 But that also means that you might be considering to buy one. I want to make the case that most of you out there probably shouldn't. If you already have one, does that mean that you should sell it like I did? Well, make sure you stick around to the end of the video and find out the answer. That's right, you can pick one of these up for the low price, sometimes even below $1,000, which is pretty significant. Now this is a top-of-the-line professional camera from 2016. Now that means that by today's standards, the 5D Mark IV has absolutely everything that you would need to take photos for money. And that also means for regular people who want to take photos for fun, that the quality of photographs that you're gonna get from this camera are very good. It's got some good specs, 30 megapixels. That's pretty high compared to what most average consumer cameras are offering, especially around this price point. It's got a very good autofocusing system, and it shoots around 7 frames per second, and it's not too amazing. And it has some features from newer mirrorless cameras, but it doesn't have the majority of the newest, most advanced stuff that you might be interested in, such as eye autofocus, stuff like pixel shift for high resolution shots, and all that kind of junk. It's really just a basic professional photography tool meant to last for years and years. There's no surprises because this body design has maybe been recycled a couple of times.
3 times, in fact. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? It's a big camera body, which means it feels good in the hand, exactly like the 5DS and the 5D Mark III before it.
It's an excellent example of some of the best ergonomics in the entire camera industry. And I think it's for that reason that professionals have been using stuff like this for a long time. Now this is an SLR. That means there's a mirror in here. And that has some benefits, but also some drawbacks. Of course, there's no lag. When you look through this and into the lens, you see the real world around you, but you don't get any types of exposure preview, creative looks, or film simulation preview, and you certainly can't use it during video. Also has a very interesting type of storage medium. These are compact flash cards, and you might have completely forgotten about these. Not really a deal breaker, actually, because these things are pretty decent.
Just like SD cards. I mean, all they really do is store pictures. The only difference is that these ones are bigger. And that the 5D Mark IV doesn't have the fastest SD card slot. To accommodate those big cards and that hefty mirror mechanism though, the 5D Mark IV has ended up being a pretty big and heavy camera body. If you've shot Canon before, you might be used to this. But if you come from a small camera, switching to a 5D can be a real pain in the neck.
The last quirk I want to talk about is the 4K video. If you've looked up this camera before, you've probably heard about it. Long story short, it was bad then and it's bad now. File sizes are just ridiculously large and storage hasn't really come down in cost too much, or at least not enough to justify it. And the footage is jittery. It's got tons of rolling shutter. Whenever you move the camera, it looks like you're kind of in a roller coaster or something, unless you literally have just a locked down, unmoving shot. So if you're using it for motion, it's practically unusable. But this camera does have a good 1080p mode. It's actually very beautiful and has a high bitrate, so it's usable, but if you need the 4K, this is not the camera for you, and there's plenty of other far cheaper cameras that would get the job done better. Now, of course, this isn't a camera review if we don't discuss the image quality, and I gotta tell you, it's fantastic. This is, I would say, the third best camera that has been made by Canon in terms of pure image quality.
That being said, you won't be able to notice that image quality without a good lens, and that's the problem with the 5D Mark IV. If you haven't got some of the professional Canon glass already around, you might not be able to notice that extra resolution, which could mean you gotta spend a lot more money on lenses, and that makes this whole proposition much more expensive.
And that leads us to a more important discussion, because this camera is not going to be limiting your ability to take photos any more than you are. When it comes to a decision about buying it, you need to determine if the Canon system is really right for you. Because in the Canon world, they really do force you into the full frame system if you want a professional body, which I find kind of unfortunate. So you're gonna be stuck with full frame cameras and their heightened price of full frame lenses that go with them.
As you know, they can be pretty big and pretty heavy too. And don't underestimate how much heavy equipment can really take the joy out of your photography.
So, if despite my warnings, you still think that the Canon 5D Mark IV is the right camera for you, just hold on 1 second. Let me give you 3 final alternative suggestions that might be better suited to your needs. If it's video you're gonna be shooting, well then I recommend the Canon R7. At around $400 more than a used 5D Mark IV, this is worth absolutely every penny for video shooters because you get in-body image stabilization, refined video modes, and if you were worried about it being a crop sensor camera, well, you don't have to because the 5D Mark IV was already shooting with a crop, so this is basically the same thing for 4K video. If you're on a bit of a tight budget, well, look no further than the 5D Mark III. Well, yes, I know it's a little bit older than the Mark IV, but if you're going to be taking pictures primarily, I don't see the reason to spend the extra money on the Mark IV. I've had this camera since 2017 and it's been going strong. I got the shutter replaced at 400,000 actuations. This thing is an absolute beast of a camera and it's definitely something that I could recommend to almost anybody. Are you still not convinced? Well, then maybe you're crazy about megapixels, which means that you should get the Canon 5DSR. This one's got more megapixels than the Canon R5, which is like a really popular camera these days, and it's much cheaper. So if you're concerned about resolution or you just want lots of cropping power, I think this one is a no-brainer. I'm even considering getting one. And you know, if after all this you still want that 5D Mark IV, well, go for it. $1,000 tied up in a piece of kit like this ain't so much, and I think it's approaching the bottom of its depreciation curve. To me, it's a very well balanced piece of kit, just doesn't do anything particularly well. Now I left this to the end, but what is it about this camera that makes me feel creatively inspired? It is important because these are tools for photography after all, and photography is a creative thing. So it should kind of inspire you in some way, right? Well, we have to face reality. These Canon cameras are kind of boring. They're just, you know, normal. But that doesn't exactly make it inspiring and it doesn't make me want to pick it up every day, unlike some other cameras that I know. So for that reason, I don't give it a lot of points in this category, but if you know what you want to do, then you know this camera can do it. And that is definitely a nice thing. This isn't a 5D Mark IV, this is actually my Mark III with some tape on it. I sold my 5D Mark IV because, well, I wanted to move on to some other types of camera experiences, and I held on to my old one just to keep the DSLR in my life. I won't be making more videos about the 5D Mark IV since it's gone now, but I felt that it was important enough in my photography journey to make a little video about it, and I hope you enjoyed it too. If you're looking forward to seeing more videos from me about different cameras, including the Mark III or perhaps something else, make sure to leave a like on this video. That helps me make more videos, and maybe leave me a comment with a suggestion for what you want to see in the future. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.